Obokun Oriade. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Osun State. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, may I move, sir, that a bill for an act to provide for statutory regulation of peacekeeping operations by members of the Nigerian Armed Forces, the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other security organizations, and for related matters, be read the second time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Wole, please lead the debate.
It's been a frontline state and major contributor to United Nations, UN, and non-United Nations peacekeeping initiatives. It is worthy of note, Mr. Speaker, that in 1960, Nigeria deployed the first set of individual police officers in Africa. Mr. Speaker, it is estimated to Congo, Mr. Speaker, it is estimated that Nigeria has spent over $8 billion in peacekeeping missions. It has provided within the Economic Community of West Africa, ECOWAS. Some of the ECOWAS countries that Nigeria has provided such missions are Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, and Sierra Leone. My colleagues, the legendary feats of our gallant armed forces remain evident in countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone, where we pour human and material resources to bring peace to those troubled states at that time. Mr. Speaker, in 2004, Nigerian troops were deployed to Darfur as part of the African Union mission in Sudan. Nigeria also provides 1,200 troops and 200 police officers in Mali in 2004. Mr. Speaker, it is however surprising that despite this fact that we have been a major contributor to UN and non-UN peacekeeping missions, Nigeria does not have a regulatory framework that guides the deployment and withdrawal of Nigerian troops and security personnel from conflict zones. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, Nigerian law does not contain a single provision on this subject matter. My colleagues, even though Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has altered 1999 Constitution, vests clear powers in the President to declare a state of emergency in the Federation or part thereof. This power is restricted to the boundaries of Nigeria. Hence, where there is need to deploy troops and security personnel outside the shores of Nigeria, the Constitution does not make any specific provision for this. And the practice has been that the President simply gives his approval for involvement in peacekeeping. Mr. Speaker, this bill simply seeks to regulate our participation as a member of the United Nations in peacekeeping operations. Year in, year out, Mr. Speaker, we spend money in deploying our troops abroad. Like I've observed, we spend about $8 billion. There's nowhere in our appropriation where this is mentioned. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, when you deploy both men, materials, and equipment for peacekeeping, United Nations also reimburse us. Mr. Speaker, there's nowhere in our budget where this has been captured as a source of revenue. I could recall vividly, Mr. Speaker, the late President, President Hon Oluwole Oke had to set up a panel to investigate using its application of refunds from United Nations. Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to put a framework so that we'll be able to capture, pursuant to Section 80 of the Constitution, utilization of taxpayers' money. Aside this, Mr. Speaker, I also want to adumbrate on the benefits. In Bangladesh, Mr. Speaker, about 30,000 youths of that country partake in peacekeeping operations. In Nigeria, when we are busy, fighting insurgents in the northeast and other parts of this country, we don't even have enough personnel to partake in this exercise. And our youth, able-bodied men and women, are roaming the streets. In other words, Mr. Speaker, if this bill says true, it will also be a source of direct employment for teeming youth on the street. Mr. Speaker, countries like Ukraine specializes in deployment of equipment in peacekeeping operations, and it's one of their major sources of foreign earning. Ditto in India, Mr. Speaker. In India, what they deploy are their men, and they also earn so much from United Nations. Mr. Speaker, in countries like Japan and Korea, you have laws enacted by their parliament to guide their participation in peacekeeping operations. I want to urge my colleagues, the Constitution, under Section 4, please before us to make laws for this country. If this bill sails through, Mr. Speaker, like I observed, it will create an avenue to recruit, train our younger ones to partake in peacekeeping operations, and it will also be a source of foreign exchange earnings. I urge you, my colleagues, to please allow this bill to see the light of the day. I thank you all.
Motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerks invited to read long title of the bill.
For statutory regulation of peacekeeping operations by members of the Nigerian Armed Forces, the Nigerian Police Force, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other security organizations, and for related matters. Second reading.